Hello, viewers. Well, E3 is almost upon us. There's going to be a lot to look forward to in the next week or so. I'll be at the show getting lots of videos and checking out all what's there. But first, we need to chat about some of what we're going to be looking forward to. So I'm joined today by Martin.
Hi, guys.
Kevin.
Hello, guys.
And our special guest, Billy Strange from Inside Sim Racing.
Hello.
Oh, let's call it a deep hello, I say.
Yes.
Nice to have you.
British.
Exactly. Terribly British. No, great to have you here, Billy. And it'll give us a nice little spin as well, a different spin on what we're going to be looking forward to at the show. So we've got a list of games that we're looking forward to. And I think kicking off, if we go in order, we've got the first conference of the show is going to be Electronic Arts. We're going to be seeing a new Need for Speed. And EA, in fact, have shown off a new screenshot today, just showing a car in some smoke, Nissan Skyline, something like that. Guys, you know, I suppose Martin, to kick off then, Martin, you reviewed the last Need for Speed in depth. What do we think? What do we think the new one's going to be like? Putting you on the spot.
I think they're going to want to try and satisfy all of Need for Speed's different audiences, to be honest. You know, you've got some people that like the Most Wanted era, some that like the Underground era. So I think really the next Need for Speed really needs to please both those sort of player bases. We've said before at length, but the police chases in the last game just really didn't do it for me at all. So I think that's one aspect that they really need to step up in the next game. And just having daylight would be a nice start as well.
Yeah,
but
I think
I've seen from the screenshot that does seem to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's confirmed. All right. I think it's probably going to be Vegas, isn't it? Because all the teasers point to Vegas, in my opinion. We've got the sort of landscape, which has that Vegas
People
building.
speculating.
Yeah, we had the
People
odds.
speculating Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, so you think of gambling, you think of Vegas, and of course we had the shots of the sort of desert-like environment with the motel. So for me, it's 95% going to be Vegas. So that would confirm daylight at the very least. Whether we have it transitioning into night is another thing, but certainly it looks like the sun will be out.
Who knows? It might have manual gears, and it might have cockpit cameras. Who knows?
Well, you know. Well, actually,
that's asking too much. That's probably asking
probably
too
not
much.
cockpit view, I'd imagine. But
one bullet point was it has an offline mode. So, wow, that is the future.
Oh, yes. I can't forget. You can actually pause a game.
Yeah, amazing. So let's get some feedback. Billy, what do you think on the new Need for Speed? What are your feelings?
You guys were talking about the police chases that weren't satisfying in the last one. I actually played through the whole, completed the last game, and I thought it was okay. Connected and that kind of thing. You're going to go to Vegas. You're probably going to stay in the night then, unless they end up going into like the mountain area or something like that. It'd be nice to have day to night transitions or something to that effect to kind of break up the monotony. The handling's kind of odd to me. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of optimism on the title.
With the last
not
title,
to be a downer.
Like you mentioned satisfying different crowds, Martin. I guess with the last title, they had the sort of different style of handling. You had the drift and you had the grip. So they kind of tried to cater for that diversity, but I'm not quite sure if they pulled it off, did they, Alan?
No, they didn't pull it off because they didn't cater for the fundamental driving experience. You know, without the manual gears, that's, you know, what do people like to do in their cars? They like to cruise around in their manual gears. They like to play loud music, rev their loud engines. They like to drive badly, I guess, you know, in that sense. They want to do donuts in shopping car parks or whatever. But the fact is that there wasn't enough for me in the world. So, for example, you had these four sort of famous people, Ken Block and all the rest of it, and you're a group, you and your mates, and you want to impress these famous drivers. But where, for me, were the rivals? Where for the other groups of people all trying to get their attention? Where were the owners' clubs? You know, now owners' clubs are what car ownership is all about. All right, I find owners' clubs to be generally gossip dens that I try to avoid, but that's a different thing entirely.
Culture.
You know, you find a culture online, and you want to find that friendly culture. And the idea is that you have this friendly culture of car fans that come out at night. They muck around together, they drift together, they make new friends and stuff like that. None of that was available in Need for Speed. And the only other thing, the cop chases, didn't work properly. And the fact that it didn't use a steering wheel, it didn't have a cockpit cam, it didn't have manual gears, you know, the very basics of driving just weren't there. So it's kind of like a concept of what it is to be a car fan, but without knowing defining what audience, what you were actually going to do in it half the time.
It felt unfinished, didn't it? Because the city itself, or the environment, I should say, it had a city in the background, but you couldn't actually drive there. And of course, the environments were lifeless, weren't they? It was quite strange. Graphically, yes, it was a powerhouse. It looked amazing. But shortly after seeing the first preview footage, it became apparent that there probably wasn't enough variation in game modes. There just wasn't enough interesting things to do.
Yes, we had all those elements missing that were in the car, you know, the wheel, the manual gears and all that stuff. But also I think the environment just lacked range to it in terms of, we had the nighttime only setting. But we also had the subtle time of day change. I think it would have been nice if, like, for example, there was loads of traffic, and then as everybody went home, the traffic died down for the night, and then as it got close to the morning, you got gridlock again in the morning. I think it would just have added something to the atmosphere of a living, breathing city. So in that sense, you know, there was nothing in there in terms of the atmosphere, what the player had to do, the car culture, that really worked for me in Need for Speed.
It felt like a game, didn't it, rather than a world that would go on even when you're not playing.
Yeah.
You know, so
the city had no life, no character to it whatsoever.
No.
So it was too small as well.
Yeah, it was too small. I remember saying to the guy, you know, some of the developers at the time, it'd be really nice, I said, if you had a tunnel that went through the mountains, came out on the other side, and you had like a forest section or something.
Yeah, like a bit of DLC even, you know, would just
just added a bit more variety. But either way, I think Need for Speed's been through many incarnations, from originally being a simulator on the 3DO to being a bit more arcadey on the PlayStation 1, more and more arcadey by Need for Speed 2, Need for Speed 3. And then after that, we've had a real mismatch, a real lack of identity for Need for Speed over the years. I do think sometimes people look at old Need for Speeds with rose-tinted specs quite often. You know, Need for Speed Underground 2 was amazing. Well, actually, you know, by today's standards, there's not much to it. And, you know, online was utterly broken. I know, because I worked on it. So at the end of the day, there were some issues. But, you know, I quite like Need for Speed Most Wanted in 2005. It was a fun game, but it was a bit shoddy graphically. It had a few glitches and bugs and issues in it, but I liked it. It had a nice charm about it. But I did not like Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012. No. That's another thing entirely. No. So yeah, Need for Speed. Every game, I think, is exciting in its own way because it's a journey, because we never really know what it's going to be. But we look forward to it. And the images, obviously the marketing from EA is always amazing, so it always looks quite enticing. But we'll find that out on the Saturday, just before the show, of course. When is it? June the 2nd. So we're actually going to have a full reveal, actually, on June the 2nd. So by the time this goes out, you'll be able to see all about it. Doesn't it? Bloody typical. Okay, so moving on then. On the what's the next day we've got? Microsoft. What do we think?
I wonder what they'll announce of that one.
What do we think is going to be at Microsoft, Kevin?
Oh, could that be Forza Motorsport 7?
You don't say.
It might be indeed. They do have a code name for it. I don't think I'm allowed to say what the code name is, but there is a code name, because I could say it's always funny with Forza every year, because you say, "Oh, I'm really looking for Forza 7." Well, what's that? People will say at Microsoft. And you say, well, if you had Forza 6 and then you have Forza Horizon 3, it's like we know the year after will be Forza Horizon 4. Isn't that amazing? Really? What makes you think that? Well, you know, common sense. So yeah, Forza 7 will be announced for, or maybe it's going to be called something else though. Maybe they're going to call it like Forza
Sport.
You know, yeah, Forza Special Edition or something.
No, please don't.
I was going to say, please don't do that.
Of course, the big news at the show, I mean, besides Forza Motorsport looking amazing, is going to be the new Microsoft Scorpio. One assumes they're going to change the name. What do you think they're going to call it?
I don't mind Scorpio, but I know they're not going to keep it.
Yeah. Well, they keep the Xbox name, that's the question.
Yeah, exactly. Because it runs Xbox One games, I get the feeling they could call it Xbox One and then something attached to that.
Xbox One Super.
Yeah, but then Xbox One's a bit of a failure, so do they want to associate themselves with that? Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not sure. I do like Scorpio, though. I'd like for it to be called Xbox One Scorpio, or maybe just Xbox Scorpio.
Also, will it be $599?
Well,
had to be said.
Yeah, we're expecting £599 in the UK.
Really?
Yeah, I'm expecting that. Yeah, I mean, I spoke to various journalists. I've known some people who think it could cost even more.
Wow.
So, you know,
I just thinking back to E3 2016 with the PS3 when they announced it was $599.
It's gonna be one
That
of
did not go down well.
No, this is a different console because what Microsoft will say is you've got the entry level hardware, which is the Xbox One S, or you can go for premium level hardware, which is amazing.
I mean,
So
people are saying it hasn't got the games, but does it really need the games if it's going to play these cross-platform releases at high resolution?
As I understand it, looking at using the little birds, they've been telling me that there's a few extra special releases that are going to be announced there, so we could see several new IPs,
but nothing exclusive, as we understand.
Well, no, these will be exclusive by Microsoft Studios in various different ones.
Still available for the Xbox One. Nothing exclusive to Scorpio.
We don't know that. We don't know. There's strange rumors going around. It's a mist. It's a mist.
You think there would be just to showcase the hardware?
Yeah, but they've stated that they were not going to do that. That they were not going to split the player base between Xbox One and then this next generation. Same thing with the S. PlayStation is, Sony's done the same thing. I don't expect you're going to see, at least to begin with, I don't think you're going to see just one exclusive to the actual Scorpio.
It's going to be a bit of a hard to sell, isn't it?
Well, the funny thing is that we've had very much mixed messages from Scorpio. When it first came out, it was like, if you haven't got a 4K TV, it's not worth buying. That was the message last year. Then it's like, oh no, if you have 1080p TVs, it's worth you buying. Now, they've admitted from the tech showcase a little while ago that if you have 1080p, you'll have incredible visuals, rich visuals, and if you have 4K, then they'll be able to upgrade to 4K. That all your Xbox One standard titles will have a boost mode that will make a massive difference compared to the Pro. And of course, I think when you see actual Scorpio mode on the Microsoft Studios titles, they're going to be amazing. Running
I love the
Scorpio.
fact that you can choose like frame rate. You can prioritize frame rate or graphic fidelity. So I love that you have the option. So that, to me, that is the future of console gaming. Give people the option. If they love frame rate, let them have the frame rate. If they want graphical fidelity, let them have that.
It's my favorite word. Yeah, my favorite word there, Kevin. Frame rate. Yeah, love the F word. No, I tell you, 60 frames per second. Goodness,
60 frames or bust.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And that's what we want for the Scorpio. So, at the conference, we're expecting Forza Motorsport 7. I think it's fair to say we're all going to expect that. What else do we think for the Scorpio? I think in terms of range, I think that's going to be it. I think the next conference coming up, of course, Ubisoft, we're going to be seeing the Crew 2. So, guys, what do you, Martin? You're probably most knowledgeable here. What do you think of the Crew 2 is going to be?
Well, that's the thing. It's such a mystery, isn't it? We have literally just one logo to go on, and that's it.
There was a slogan you said though, "Beyond the Road," or
that was it. Yes. Well, it's like we said before. I mean, that could mean anything really. It could either mean more emphasis on off-roading, but that seems unlikely because that was already.
Yeah, it's been done to death now, hasn't it? So it's
I mean, it had its own spec in the Crew, so that seems unlikely to be.
Planes and boats is what I want to see. Really open playground, give something that Forza Horizon doesn't even give you. Go more towards sort of GTA style. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, and perhaps also a more engaging storyline, or even no storyline at all.
Would be better, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Billy, did you play much of the Crew?
I did. I actually played it through to completion.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, I used a gamepad. I didn't bother with a wheel or anything, but I thought it was okay. The story was very lackluster, and
it made the Fast and Furious look Oscar worthy.
Right?
It's very serious, wasn't it? The storyline, very serious.
Well, I don't mind it being serious, but I think it tried to take itself too serious for something that has a bit of silliness to the driving, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
the DLC for me was very like the opposite end of the spectrum. We had the Wild Run where you do all the loops and stuff, and that was so different from the very serious storyline. It was a really odd mix, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think they had an idea and they just kind of threw it on there.
What about the driving now? I mean, we had. What format were you playing it on, Billy? Were you playing it on PC or console?
What did I play that on? I think I played it on. Wow. It was one of the consoles. I don't remember which one it was though.
I was playing it on PC in triple screen, and I enjoyed the first game somewhat in triple screens. It ran really nice and smoothly. But when it came to the Wild Run update, my big problem was for the monster trucks in particular, they introduced second stick control.
I remember you saying that, yes.
Yeah, and that was a problem for wheel users, and so I just fell off the game after that. The other problem I had was some night driving. Sometimes it got really dark and couldn't see where I was going, and I was having a few bugs where there's no headlights. So that was a problem. But yeah, I mean, it was a game that the Wild Run upgrade for it looks stunning. I mean, I was amazed at the time of what they achieved with it.
Yeah, the free update, wasn't it? Yeah,
it wasn't the best looking game when it was first released, it has to be said, compared to their trailer, which I think had one of the best looking trailers ever. I mean, wow. So I think there's certainly potential there. There's certainly heritage there. It just depends on the technology that Ubisoft have got, and whether they can bring it, whether it's stretching itself too thinly over a gigantic map as well. I think that's.
Yeah. And again, will it have an offline mode?
Yeah, good point. Actually,
likely for speed. Obviously, the online component was so critical to the crew, and yet really it was unnecessary sometimes.
Yeah, we just wonder how long we'll be able to play the crew now, because once the servers go offline, I mean, that's it forever, isn't it? So,
I do hate the idea of that. A game just becoming obsolete just because you can't access it online. And I think the irony as well with the crew is that a lot of the time it was hard to even find a crew to play with if you weren't playing with your friends.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the crew, I was so hyped for this game, and I did get a lot out of it, but it just got stale for me. It offered some amazing driving roads, some amazing driving scenarios, but for me, probably the biggest disappointment was the sounds. The cars, for me, pretty much sounded the same, and I need that difference. I want to be able to know what this car's like to drive. Give me a rough idea of what this car sounds like. When they all sound the same, each car doesn't have that special individuality, which it should have. So you really need to work on that. If they can work on that, fine-tune the handling, I think it would be a great sort of cruising game.
I think in a way that the spec system did kind of make up for that in a way, because when you upgrade your car through so many different specs, you do kind of get quite attached to it.
Yeah, in terms of car variety, you could let them off. I think they had like about 50 cars at launch or something, but because of the specs, that was largely forgiven because an awful lot of work went into each individual car. But in terms of actual driving, finding the difference, the nuances to each car, they just all felt pretty much the same to me, and that's pretty unforgivable, really. I
still love the idea of evolving your car though through so many different stages, because I think a lot of people, when they play an open world game like that, they tend to stick to just specifically their favorite specific cars. So I think in that sense it did work, but I
think it's
I know what you mean. There was
particularly Wild Run. Yeah, I mean, Wild Run, it had the drag racing, which to me was a bit rubbish. Drifting wasn't particularly satisfying, I found, and they had some nice ideas, but I don't know. I've got a lot of hope for the crew too. If they can pull it off, I certainly will be one of the biggest fans. But I'm a little bit skeptical. But hopefully they can if they can bring it more towards sort of Test Drive Unlimited style, where it's just so satisfying to go for a drive, just for the hell of going for a drive. Just spend an hour or two chilling out, put your music on, go for a drive, and just enjoy the road. That's what I'd love to see.
Yeah. Just that the announcement has that wow factor, because I remember just being so blown away when they first announced it. Because it's a brand new IP, complete surprise.
USA,
Unlimited.
USA. What the hell? It's incredible. And there was one or two amendments to the. Yeah, it had some unusual sections, like Florida was a bit misshapen and whatnot, but the concept was amazing.
It wasn't to scale.
No, it wasn't to scale. No,
that would be a game, wouldn't it? I guess that leads then to the question: where will the sequel be set? We still don't.
Took the words out of my mouth there.
Where will it be set?
Who knows?
I mean, we said it before. We want it to be in Europe, ideally, because obviously they're based in Lyon, in France. So in a way, it would make sense.
We're just assuming it's going to be a massive continent, but it could actually be a single country, couldn't it? They could expand and really detail a single country. Who knows? The mind boggles, quite frankly.
I say they go to Russia.
They should.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? It all depends. I mean, with this Beyond the Road thing, I think is the interesting statement, because like we talked about, does that mean boats as well?
Maybe interconnecting islands, perhaps bridges.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know why, but I think they'll. I mean, we've always talked about Japan, because there's so much they can do there. Maybe they're going to get in there first. Yeah, I mean, maybe Japan could be the next location. it's difficult to say. You know, we look forward to it anyway. So we'll move on to the next game. Of course, the next big one at the show is going to be a new announcement for Gran Turismo Sport.
Can I just say one step back, actually? Back to Ubisoft, sorry. One sec. Missing a trick here. A new driver game might be announced at Ubisoft.
What?
I wish.
Oh,
no, it will be on mobile phones. If they do that.
I'm just dreaming.
Yes.
I know.
Speedboat the sequel.
Be on mobile phones. If
Driver
they do that,
Speedboat
wouldn't they?
Paradise 2.
you teased me for just a second there.
Driver Speedboat Paradise 2. Yeah. Oh,
We're
my
big fans of Driver
goodness.
San Francisco. And
What a
it's
way
long
to rinse
overdue
an
a sequel.
IP. Yeah.
It's so long overdue a sequel.
Not the sequel we deserve. Yeah. So no, it's a shame, isn't it, when you think they've got that driver license and they just don't do anything with it. I just feel that the driver brand still is a great brand, and I think that it would excite people seeing a new driver game. I think they'd have been much more excited seeing a new driver than the Crew 2. But you know,
yeah, the Crew had a very mixed reception, and it still seems to have its haters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only problem that the driver franchise runs into is it'll get lost in between like a GTA and then anything like the Crew, and where does it fit in? I think that's a tough situation for that franchise.
It is. I mean, what would the driver game? I mean, we have obviously things have moved on a lot since Driver San Francisco because of the technology has moved on, and
you say that some elements in San Francisco are still not bested today. You know, we had 60 frames. We had amazingly populated cities with lots of people on the site.
Yeah,
and done a lot of things very well, didn't it?
Oh, incredible! I mean, I look at it now and I still think, goodness, this game looks amazing. I mean, it's amazing that it was out on that system, and what a waste! What a waste! We've been there so many times, guys. So no, moving on.
I gotta try it because I've never tried that one. I only played the first two.
Well, the problem with Driver San Francisco is it's a brilliant game, but the multiplayer mode on it, you won't find anyone online now probably, but the multiplayer mode was the best ever made. It's as simple as that. It is head and shoulders the best multiplayer mode ever made for a racing game.
See, and I'm not a big multiplayer person. I don't care for doing that. So
no, that's the thing is a lot of us aren't, frankly, these days as much as we used to be. But when the way it works, the way you can teleport from car to car to car sounds crazy, but when you're doing it strategically, it's bonkers and brilliant. And it
really sounds like a good premise.
Yeah,
I mean, even a single player was out off the wall bonkers. You know, the cutscenes and stuff. It was a lot of fun, and there's so much you could do as well. And for me, it never really got stale. You know, you do all these different events and you collect all these collectibles and stuff, and it just had a nice variety about it. It didn't take itself seriously. It was all very jovial and fun and bright, and it was a breath of fresh air at the time, and we haven't really seen anything like it since.
No.
I think what separates Driver as well is that it's made purely for movie car chase fans like myself. No other game really offers that experience to the level that Driver does. I mean, it even had like scenarios that what was it? You had like those mini scenario events based on movie scenes. I don't know if you remember those. Like Bullet and Vanishing Point. I love that.
Yeah,
need more of that in games.
Yeah, we do. You know, it's like little games like Reckless and stuff like that. But then that takes us on to, you know, Split Second and all these kinds of games that create massive, epic moments that we don't see so much now because we've moved from very much from sort of an overload of arcade games on consoles to everything becoming Sims now. And it's like Sims is the buzzword now. Everybody wants to sim. And so the industry doesn't seem to cater for both audiences. It sort of struggles in some ways. And maybe that's down to marketing. You know, a lot of people very heavily influenced by marketing. So
a lot of companies follow each other, don't they? So if Sims in vogue, then they're going to do Sims, and you know it's only a matter of time before we get loads more arcade races. We're already seeing it, of course. So it just, like you say before, ebbs and flows, doesn't it? So it's whatever is in vogue at the moment, really. And at the moment, it's very much Sim.
But moving swiftly on, guys, we have to get on to GT Sport now. GT Sport, a game which obviously I've played the beta, and it's not massively exciting to play. The online for me runs terribly. I've mentioned this before in terms of the lag has been quite bad. Guys, what do you think of GTs? What are we expecting to see at E3 then? What's going to be new? Do we think new tracks, new weather? What are we thinking?
New photo
release
modes.
date, perhaps,
Photo mode, yeah,
Exactly.
or a release date, perhaps.
possibly.
I think possibly a release. Well, I'm asking
Or
around.
a release date they'll stick to, I should say. They won't get delayed again.
Does that exist?
I don't think you're going to see this before November this year. I really don't.
No.
Well, it was due out last November, I think it was.
December, November? I don't know, something like that.
I keep my ear to the ground, on these things, and I say to people, what do we think, people? What do we think's happening with GT? And they say to me, well, if the beta went really well, it may have been like a surprise launch in the summer because it'd been ready to go and get off. But the beta's not going very well, is it?
No, it's very sparse. You look at the components that they've managed to put in, and the problem is that, well, at least in my opinion, the problem is that you went from a player base that knew what the GT brand was about, and now you're kind of straying from that brand, and you're kind of in this nebulous area. You don't really have this. You guys mentioned on the podcast, which I listened to, by the way, the esports kind of influx that we're having, and I just don't know that this is a spot that they really want to be in. And I said it, I think last year or the beginning of this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of just shelf this and turn it into a GT7 with the sport mode included.
I'd love to see that, because for me, there's not enough of a selling point here for the masses.
No.
It's too serious, isn't it, for the mass market? It's got the GT brand, of course. It's going to sell, but
I don't know that it's too serious. The problem is that you have an existing franchise that has an existing expectation. It's kind of like what the Forza Motorsport series has done. They had an existing franchise that had an expectation like 3 and 4, and then all of a sudden we get to 5 and 6, and it starts moving away from that.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, you're going to rope in new people.
A lot of people are going to buy a GT Sport expecting the traditional campaign mode, and it's not going to be there.
Yes,
that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, we've said this before, but I would love to ask Kaz.
Yep.
Who is Gran Turismo Sport aimed for?
And he did actually say that they wasn't sure whether to call it GT Sport or GT7, which I found amazing.
In our interview with him last year, he said that, and I was sitting there thinking, well, at the time, I was probably the only person in the room who was really disappointed with it when I played it, because I was just expecting so much more. I remember watching the trailer, the shoddy trailer that they knocked together in 5 minutes, and half of it was about photo mode, and I just thought, what? And then he was on stage talking about photo mode for ages. Photo mode. Listen, the only people who care about photo mode are a small percentage of players who like to photograph their car now and again, and car companies. Because car companies like to see their car looking nice and shiny in different locations. And it's all about brand marketing and getting people to buy the cars that they play in the game and all that. So I can see why the motor industry like it, but for gamers, it tells me that maybe Kaz always lost touch.
Well, but don't you think that's been the case for a while? Because I have been a big GT fan. I mean, I've got all of them. I've got freaking imports and the whole thing. I've played them all. So, but the further they've gone, I feel like the further out of touch they've been.
Yeah.
And like you just mentioned, the photo mode thing. I mean, what am I supposed to do as a GT fan? Yes, photo mode is nice. I don't mind having a photo mode in the game. I'll play with it a little bit, but the core premise is not GT take a picture of a car. It's GT drive. You're driving. You're supposed to be in the car. Show us what that is. Show us why we should get excited. And that wasn't there. No, it wasn't there. And I think at the moment Martin said in podcasts before now that there are concerns about the one-player mode. What kind of one-player game? We're all about this multiplayer, but let's face it, if you've ever played competitive racing before, you can get to the top 1,000 or the top 100, but getting that top 10, I mean, those guys are aliens, basically. They're going to play it day and night. You're just not going to win it. There's always going to be some great. So I'm not going to waste
2,000 laps on Brands Hatch just to try getting in with a shot that I know I'm not going to win because there's going to be some super kid somewhere in the world that's going to beat me. So, I think in that sense, it just puts people off, because you need to race against people of your own ability in a fun, competitive way. That's difficult, all the way around, getting it balanced right. And I don't know. I think it works with iRacing because you have a service there and, everybody's relatively dedicated. And
it started out that way. That was the whole premise of iRacing, was to build basically an MMO for the competitive simulation racer. And this doesn't start that way. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's like it's confusing as a brand, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like a sidestep, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's unwanted for most.
It's basically I don't know what it is. As I've said before, the developers have sat on their hands for 4 years. They've done nothing, frankly. Kazunori's been off on a permanent holiday racing his car, and now they've been told they need to get a game out the door, and they've got nothing there. GT7 should have been released by now.
Yeah, I mean, we're in danger of not getting GT7 until the PS5.
Yeah.
I think that's part of that culture, because if you look at like any of the Final Fantasy series or the Kingdom Hearts series, Square Enix over on the Japan side, it seems to take them a really long time to put things out. And I wonder if they just have like a boatload of revisions that they go through. Like, I don't like this tiny little thing. Let's scrap it all and start over. And I'm making a joke here about the photo mode, but you almost wonder if he just went like, photo mode needs to be more, it's got to be more important than this, than just like a little side note. And I don't know how much time I've seen Kevin's drives, but I don't know how much time you put into the beta. I mean, I was having weird stuff happen where and I can't remember the name of the track, but the street circuit, where I was noticing it does some things well. The balance of performance is a great idea, because you can kind of stick with your favorite car and know that it's going to be somewhat competitive in that race. But then I'm like driving on that street circuit, which is a horrible idea for a multiplayer race to begin with. But I was noticing that you'll ghost if somebody's right behind you. You slow down, they'll fly right through you. Yeah. Well, the problem is the guys behind me would figure that out, and then they would just bounce off the wall because there was no no penalty. So I was like, all right, well, I can play this game too.
That's what will kill the title for a lot of people. Are people going to be frightened about their safety rating? And are people going to use all these exploits? And I believe if you're in the top 3 ranks, there's no ghosting, but that's not really good enough, because those guys that can't get in the top 3 ranks are going to have to settle for this sort of mediocre experience where people are ghosting. It's not real racing, is it? It's far detached from what they're trying to achieve, and it's not quite there, is it? It's not good enough.
I don't mind that ghosts. Consistency, I guess, is what I'm looking for. And when I played it with the wheel, I didn't think it was that great. Other people were like, it's amazing. I'm like, I don't know what you're feeling, but I don't feel it. Okay, fine. But I played it with the pad, and it drives well with the pad.
It does.
So I actually did half of my stuff with the drives with the pad, and it's okay. Like, they've improved the handling models and stuff. So that's, from when it started to now. Mm-hmm. And there was really some bad aliasing and stuff going on, which they seem to have at least somewhat corrected. Because I've just got the standard PS4. I don't have a Pro, but it's an odd thing that they have going.
It is.
Yeah, it would have been so bad if the core GT7 came out first, and then Sport was like a follow-up.
Yeah, because people were waiting patiently for years and years and years, and this is not big enough. This is not good enough to satisfy those fans that have been patiently waiting. They bought PS4s with the idea that GT was going to come out, reasonably early in the cycle of the console, and it just is still not here. We're in 2017, and we still haven't even got a GT Sport, which is supposed to be a very sort of, smaller title, if you like, much a less comprehensive package that they should be able to knock out the door pretty quickly. And it's still not here. So where is GT7? Yeah.
It just seems like a stopgap until GT7. That's 4 years too late.
In terms of E3, I don't think new tracks and cars are going to cut it. We need something that's going to excite us. We're going to need VR content. We're going to need damage, perhaps something that's comprehensive, something that's going to be a game changer, something that's really going to entice people. And cars and tracks are not going to do it.
And I still wouldn't bank on too much in the VR aspect with GT Sport.
That was
I think you're going to have a very, very limited capability.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable when the first generation tech can only do so much. It's good that we have some VR element to the game, but ultimately it's another area that has disappointed us. We wanted to play the whole package in VR, and we're not able to do so. So it seems like the more we know, the more disappointed we get.
Yeah,
I think Martin was right. I think the best thing you could do would actually be GT7 and then have this as an add-on, or like a year later have this as some sort of an expansion or standalone, but then you've satisfied the base.
Yes.
Yeah, you've
absolutely.
The problem is, I mean, this GT Sport is not a proper GT game. It's like a prologue. Frankly, it's not got a great deal to it. And I will say actually that I did my best lap time with the controller. So there we go. I don't know what it is. With the wheel, it didn't feel, I don't know, didn't feel quite as loose with the wheel as I would like. And,
I think some cars are more a handful than others. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just didn't feel quite. The car wasn't quite moving around as I would like with a wheel. But it depends on the car. They were feeling very heavy, very sort of overly planted with the wheel.
If you overdrive the car, it definitely shoves the front end. There is no reprieve with these cars, which is interesting because they all kind of do the same thing. But even though the cars have little nuances to them, I noticed that once they all get past that point, they all do the same exact thing. There is no differentiation between the cars. So it's that I don't know. It's just like you were saying, the cars don't feel loose. And what I found was the actual input of the wheel I found was loose, not the car itself, but the wheel. The wheel didn't feel like I was connected to the car. So then I'm like, I'm just reacting and kind of guessing, okay, I turn in now, instead of like getting that feedback. I mean, everything we do in a driving game is, and even in real life, is reactionary. We can try and be proactive, but we're really not being proactive. It's all reactionary. So yeah, they just need to tighten things up.
Yeah, it's a strange one. And like I say, I did my best lap with the controller, so there we have it. It plays very well with the controller, I will say.
I think that probably might be down to with a controller. I think with GT games, your fastest laps are probably the ones where you're very aggressive. Like you see the leadable times, and they're sort of really cutting the turns. And
I happen to run the same. I happen to run the same lap time with both.
Yeah, it's funny that. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how good it with the controller. But no, it's a GT Sport. I think so far, I think it's fair to say we're all a bit underwhelmed with where it is. We're all a bit, I think, disappointed in the way the brand's been handled. In fact, and the way the franchise has been handled. I think that this E3 is very important for the future of Gran Turismo. That they do a trailer that's going to blow our socks off and show us something new. Show us a lot new, actually. I don't want to see Brands Hatch and the same tracks again. I want new tracks, new cars, new stuff that shows us why it's awesome. And as I say, back to the argument people are having that bought PS4 specifically for Gran Turismo, obviously they're now quite disappointed that the Pro is the system that you want to maximize it. So, we've gone from Gran Turismo being the game where everybody said, wow, can't wait, to the game where people are saying, don't care, just tell me when it's coming out. And it's really sort of got a very negative vibe around it. But, we will all play Gran Turismo. We will all get into it. And if it's a good game, we'll all give it the support it needs. But let's face it, they've got a lot of work to do. So that's going to be from Sony. Sony have stacks of games that they're going to be showing off at their E3. I think they've got a decent selection there. So, it's going to be one of a few, but it is expected.
I hope it's good.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope so. I'll tell you now. Next at the show, we're going to be seeing WRC7. He's going to be there, hovering around somewhere. We've seen a trailer which was launched a couple of weeks ago. WRC7. Yep. We can't really say much about this. Really, it's going to be the third one from Kiloton Games. It's going to look better than the last one. Did we have any details, Kevin? Was there any details?
Not to my knowledge. It was very sort of teasery, wasn't it? They showed off very small clips here and there, and I think was there one or two trailers? Because I know one had
just the one.
It was mixed in with real life footage, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, I mean,
very teasery.
The clips they showed it looked better than last year's one. And let's face it, last year's looked better than the year before.
Yeah.
So this will look better again. I think last year had for me some frame rate issues, stuttering and stuff, and I found that quite tearing and all that sort of stuff. And I hope they can stabilize the visuals a bit more this time on both console and PC. Difficult balance in handling. Yeah. On PC, I was getting some stuttering, but maybe there was a patch early on. I can't remember now, but maybe I think I had to use VSync or something like that. But I was getting some issue with it. But suffice to say that I did enjoy it. I had a lot of fun on it. I you know, surprisingly, it played well. It didn't visually look as good as Dirt Rally. It wasn't a simulator to the same level as Dirt Rally, but it was more intuitive in some ways.
Yes.
It was fun.
I got roasted real bad for my opinion on WRC6 on the Inside Sim Racing channel, but I actually liked it.
Yeah.
And people just felt like it wasn't sim enough, and I was like, well, but they're not. That's not really the audience that they're going for. But what they did manage to do was have a nuanced handling model that required skill, and that's what I'm looking for. And I thought I had a lot of fun playing it. So,
on the wheel, I mean, I just love getting the car sideways so I can catch the slide. I did it on purpose, you know, because it was so much fun. Just to confirm, there was no details actually released alongside the trailer as well. So it's anyone's guess what they've improved. But we saw massive improvements in so many areas with WRC6 compared to 5 that, you know, perhaps it's maybe it's not fair to expect the same leap again, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to be working their butts off to improve a number of areas, you know, continue that evolution of the game. And if they can get even half a step up what they got before, it's going to be a pretty decent game.
I'm excited.
Go.
I was just saying, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I met the developers, and I got to tell you, the developers are the most passionate rally fans. You know, they're every bit as passionate as the Codemasters guys. They love rally. They want to do the best they can. They visit the WRCs. They have been for years. So for them, getting the license meant a lot to them. And I don't think the general public really understand how tough it is for them to make a game in 1 year, to make the technology from scratch, which is what they had to do, to build on that, but also to make a game that appeals to everyone. And, you know, as I've mentioned on the Dirt 4 videos, you know, a lot of people, you know, friends played Dirt Rally and just couldn't stand it. They kept falling off the track, getting bored with it within a couple of stages and giving up. You know, it just wasn't fun for them. They just weren't having fun. And I think the problem with WRC is it needs to appeal to a much wider audience.
Yes.
So,
and that's why they have the stability control, which was quite ridiculous, but I can understand why it's there. It's to keep these sort of casual gamers, which I hate saying that word, but to keep people on the track. It was very intrusive, but you know, it was there for people that needed it. And of course, you know, you take off the stability control and away you go. It's a lot more fun for more experienced players. But yeah, like you say, it's a licensed game, so they have to pay for that license. How do you do that? Well, you make sure you get the sales in place by appealing to as many people as possible.
Well, and you put modes like that in there so that you can get the person that is a more, you know, somebody that's not, they're like, I just like, you know, World Rally. And then they grab the game and they can actually have fun and play it. And then the idea is to get them to progress along, take that stability mode off. I mean, you know, it doesn't hurt to have these things in there where it kind of guides you in a direction if you're not familiar. And then obviously for the people that are more seasoned, have them where they can take that stuff off and jump right in and make it as difficult as they want.
Yeah, I guess we've seen it with Dirt 4 as well. They have this game of handling where people can jump on, have some fun, and if they're inclined, if they put enough timing with the game, they can turn it off and enjoy it all the same with slightly more extreme handling, if you like. So it's an ideal game would be one that can have several layers of depth, where you have all these simulation elements, but then you can have the assists to really sort of dial it back for those that are inclined to play it that way. And hopefully with Dirt 4, this will start a new sort of trend of games that are truly accessible to all, enjoyed by all, by giving players the simulation and sort of arcade parts of the spectrum.
Yeah, I'm all about options. Let the player have options to tailor their experience.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to it, and hopefully at E3 we'll try getting our hands on, and then I'll give you guys some feedback. But suffice to say that I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think they get a hard time, and it'll be interesting to see what Kiloton have managed to put together this year. Of course, Kiloton also have another game coming out, which is Isle of Man TT. Hotly sought after, crazy bikers going at crazy speeds on one of the most difficult racetracks in the world. It really is completely bonkers. If you've never seen the Isle of Man TT, do have a look. Find a Guy Martin video or something.
Yes.
On board. My goodness me, the speeds those guys go at through country lanes. I would be terrified. I mean, you know, the funny thing is that when you go fast in a car and you haven't been given any training, you go really fast and you sweat a lot. And when you go really quick, you begin to realize that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going so fast. And then you slow down again and you think, I need some tutoring. And what it is I'm not saying I'm a dangerous driver or anything, but you just, the first time you go a bit fast and, you try it out.
And the thing is, you think you're going fast. I mean, that's
right.
something when I learned when I started to races, you think you're going fast. You're not going fast yet.
No, exactly. I mean, it's another level. And so these guys have so much feeling, so much commitment, so much control over their bike.
It's almost like they don't have the fear gene that we all have.
Well, do you know what? I remember a guy learning how to ride a bike. And I remember there's me, armchair guy, but I was watching him learning and he was doing GoPro videos. And I said, the problem is through this corner. He said, there was a bump there and it was putting me off. I said, well, they're all committed through the corner. You just got to, your indecision, your lack of commitment makes more chance of you crashing because you're not throwing yourself in there. And that's where biking is total commitment. You just have to believe in the machinery and your own skill to adapt to what's happening.
Yeah, you have to trust the car. You have to trust, or the bike rather. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've seen videos of people doing these like super carts around the streets and sidecars and stuff like that. My God, the sidecars I've mentioned before. If you've ever seen sidecars and you've never seen them, watch a sidecar video on the Isle of Man. I mean, the way the guys throw themselves over the bike either side and the sidecar to lean it around the corners, it really is just, incredible to see. So Isle of Man, we haven't seen anything of it. It is being shown at the Isle of Man as we speak, and of course we'll be looking forward to getting some footage and trying it out at E3, but the jury is completely out. Put it this way, Kiloton's last bike game was rubbish. Okay?
Motorcycle Club, yes.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
We don't.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, let's forget about it.
Sorry.
We'll forget about that. Move on.
We're flat out free of bike racing games.
Because I love bikes, and I just thought, oh no.
It really was bad, wasn't it? It was bad.
Yes.
I mean, it was
flat
just
out free of bike racing games, pretty much.
it was just the worst biking game. So yes, no, I think jury's out. Could be more like Ride 2. Could be like something new. Who knows? Certainly, Ride 2 is going to be their direct competitor. Good year for biking. We've had MXGP 3 come out recently. We've got obviously MotoGP 17, which runs well. So far, the build I played was a lot of fun to play on the PS4 and with phenomenal audio as well. Really,
no drifting Mustangs in this one.
Oh, I hope
no
drifting Mustangs.
no drifting Mustang safety cars. I mean, oh god, that was it was bad.
Rough.
I made it look good in the video. I did some awesome driving. I was like, wow, that was amazing. And it looked a bit rubbish, but I was giving it everything to make it look good.
I did the same thing. I put it on Inside Sim Racing's channel, and I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea, even if I should do this. And I did it anyway, and I couldn't help it. I was laughing. I started laughing about halfway through it because it was just it was so silly. And no, oh boy.
It was bad. I tell you, it was bad, and that was a funny thing. Last year, of course, we had remote control cars, which I thought was an interesting. We had the drifting, which was unusual, Kevin.
It was a very sort of I don't know. It wasn't very realistic, put it that way. And there was no way arcades.
It felt very loose, I thought.
Yeah, there are a couple of arcade races actually, bike races. We have Road Rage and Road Redemption. Which were supposed to both come out last year, so I'm not quite sure what the latest.
Maybe they'll be shown. I mean,
possible.
So we've got those coming. So that's biking done. Moving on, then, of course, like you say, we've been through Forza 7. We'll try getting some gameplay of Forza Motorsport 7 at the show. It's going to be quite challenging getting hold of it. Another game might be NASCAR Heat 2, might be shown at the show as well. NASCAR Heat. Billy, did you play NASCAR Heat?
I did.
Any good? Doesn't sound it.
Well, I guess part of the problem is I remember, I have the original and then the Dirt to Daytona that these guys did, on the PlayStation 2 years ago. So, I mean, the engine sounds weren't right. They had good ideas in there. I think that the problem is much like, what was it, Killison that did the WRC? They had to get it out. They had the license, they had to get it out. So I think they relied on a lot of shortcuts and assets they had from a long time ago. And it's just the driving was just kind of okay. The AI was horrific. It did this like rubber banding thing that's so old school, in my opinion, at least. It just, you could come from the back of the field, get to like 20th, and then you just kind of hung there. And it was a very bizarre way of trying to make you feel like you were in the action. And then engine noises. They weren't going the right speeds at Daytona. The RPMs weren't correct. And they tried to fix that along the way. But I'm a firm believer in when you put that first foot forward, it better be pretty good. And I don't think it was a great shot.
So they've got a lot to do at the show, and they've got a lot to really show that they can improve upon, and maybe that's why it's coming out so soon. Who knows? But either way, NASCAR Heat will be back, and there's certainly a market for it. Obviously, it's huge in the US.
I think it came to Steam, didn't it, in this country? I don't think it wasn't on the consoles.
No, it came to consoles eventually.
I did.
Much later.
Much later,
silent release. Yeah,
I think it came on Xbox One first, then maybe a couple of months later on PS4.
Okay.
Bit of a stealth release.
Well after the original release, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was at least half a year, probably more.
Goodness.
Problem is, it's so hard because you need the AI to be right. You don't want to be rammed off the track constantly, or all that kind of nonsense. It's tricky with the AI on these, and I mean, there's definitely competition out there. I mean, it was Technics, of course, doing it a few years ago before that. But always strange that a UK company making NASCAR games, especially a UK company based in Newcastle. It's north of England. It's just very unusual. But
Well, what's bad was they actually at the beginning got roasted for not doing very good, and then when you kind of compared their later releases to Heat, it was like the other guys were actually doing a bit better than this.
Yeah,
and that's not good.
No, it's not good. So we'll see. NASCAR Heat will probably be at the show. We're expecting Project Cars 2, of course. We've got to talk about Project Cars 2. I think it's, I've been said it before. I think it's head and shoulders the most exciting prospect on paper this year. I mean, if they can get everything working, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it should be amazing. I can say, having played it already, that what I've played has been good fun. So far, it's moving in the right direction. It's just that it needs lots and lots of work done between now and launch. So it was still surprisingly early. So there's a lot to do on it. Have you managed to play it yet, Billy?
No, I have not gotten my hands on it. We have not had the ability to. So I'm anxiously, almost desperately waiting to get my hands on it because I listened to you guys do your previews. I'm like, I want to play. So
no, I will say, I mean, obviously there's a lot of work going into different cars and everything else at the moment, so everything's got to be balanced. But what we've played of it so far, the IndyCar for me was really challenging, really good fun to drive. I could look forward to trying it on the oval as well, because it's going to be interesting to see, how the car feels, how it moves around. There's a lot to check out there, and of course with all the different types of cars and weather conditions. Anyway, we'll be at the show, of course, filming some Project Cars 2. So I mean, obviously we've talked about it to death. You guys all know about it that are listening to this, and we'll be getting some more coverage on that. Just looking at some other little titles. I say little titles. You never know. F1 2017 might be there. Obviously, for me, as many of you will know, I'm a big fan of the classic cars in F1 2013. So if there's a classic car, I will be driving it. That's for sure.
I'm excited about that too.
It'd be good to see what they can do now. Codemasters have moved much closer towards sim handling in the last couple of years, and it'd be interesting to see how simmy these new classic cars are, how challenging they are to drive, what the technique is going to be to driving them, which should be very different. So interesting. F1 2017. We'll wait and see. Thrustmaster will be there with their the wheel that doesn't exist that they showed off at the Gran Turismo event last year, probably, maybe. Well, I mean, I think if they're doing it on stage, I think it's highly likely you'll see the wheel revealed again on stage, and maybe at the Sony conference, and maybe a bit of information on it there. But either way, that's the wheel that doesn't exist, and hopefully we'll get some footage of that wheel as well. Sparco, of course, have entered the world of gaming with their rigs, so they're likely to be at E3. We'll be checking out some of that. Interesting to get a name like Sparco into gaming finally. It sort of builds a connection between real racing and the home racing. I think it's an important name for the world of motorsports. Redouts is the next one, futuristic racing game. Not a lot of you listening to this will know about Redout or really be interested in it, but you should be, because it's a futuristic game like Wipeout, and it's stunning. I mean, wow, what they've done to it since it was released last year. I was playing a couple of the new maps recently, and amazing DLC. I love it. And you know, we've got Redout, Wipeout Omega, and Formula Fusion that are going to be competing in the futuristic racing game market across all consoles. We'll try getting some footage on that. And of course, what are we going to have from Logitech? I don't know if Logitech are actually doing anything now in terms of moving forward, but they really need to, because they're still a big name in the world of steering wheels after all these years. And yet really they haven't done much for a long time, but added a new rim to the G25. That's basically been the extent of their work, but we look forward to something like that. So guys, that's the main racing games of E3. Just a quick roundup, all of you. What are sort of non-racing are you guys? Martin, you kick off first. What kind of non-racing games are you looking forward to, just as an E3 roundup to finish off?
Probably the same as you, to be honest. I think you know what I'm going to say here.
Yeah.
It's got to be Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the highlights of the show, I feel.
I'm all over that. I'm all over it. There will be some Battlefront 2 coverage on the channel. It's going to happen. Sorry, guys.
It'll have space combat, so that sort of counts as driving.
Cockpit-based gameplay. It's cockpit-based gameplay.
There you go. That's what I was looking for.
We're going to drive an X-Wing fighter. Hard.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Battlefront was just so short on content. It really needs to be fleshed out.
Yeah.
But you couldn't fault the production values, though. You really did feel like you were in the Star Wars universe more than any game before it. So they can build on that. It's a very exciting prospect with the expanded locations and characters. I mean, by far and away, that's going to be my highlight of the show, I think, for non-racing, in terms of non-racing games.
Kevin, what do you think?
I'm not actually sure what's going to be at E3 in terms of non-racing games, but I guess titles that I'm looking forward to, Red Dead Redemption 2, I guess. Days Gone looks pretty decent. Resident Evil 2 remake, and I guess Final Fantasy 7 remake as well. Those are the games I'm interested in right now.
I mean, at the end of the day, Billy, what are you thinking? E3 non-racing games.
Yeah, I would agree with the RE2. I'm a big, especially the old school Resident Evil stuff. That's like one of the things that got me back into gaming. So that Final Fantasy 7 remake as well, although they've now gone on record and said we're not really sure when that's coming out. So that's a bit disappointing. State of Decay 2.
Okay.
So I've sunk way too much time into that one, the first one. So I'm hoping, I think they said that one was going to be there. If it's not, I'll be surprised. So that's probably my biggest one.
What am I looking forward to then? I'm looking forward to, but there was a game like Gears of War, but where you beat people up that looked interesting, and I can't remember what it's called now. It's like you dodge behind a wall and you shoot people, and then you jump over the wall and kung fu kick them in the face and beat them up. Looks pretty good. It's like fighting Gears of War. Other than that, of course, Sony, what they got? Days Gone, Death Stranding. I'm not interested in Death Stranding. I've seen nothing in the trailer that interests me. It's what's his name?
God of War, isn't there?
God of War.
Yes.
God of War. I can't remember which one it's called. It's just God of War, as far as I'm aware. Knack 2, Spider-Man, Last of Us 2. Maybe an Uncharted. I mean, it's epic titles for Sony there. I mean, they've really got a powerful lineup. I think that besides that, Microsoft are all secret right now. I don't really know much what's going on there. But I'm just going to have a little tour, and if I see, there is one game I want to play, Ace Combat 7
Yes.
on PSVR. I played it earlier this year on PSVR, and it was amazing. Really enjoyed Ace Combat 7. It's, again, cockpit-based gameplay. We can get away with it. We're a racing channel, but we do a bit of cockpit stuff because we're driving machinery. That's what we do on VVV, and everybody knows I'm a gamer. I can't help that. So I leak it in where possible. So there will be some general gaming stuff from a cross section of the show. So you will see me playing random FPSs or something. But there you go. There you go. You've heard it here first. So other than that, really looking forward to the show, guys. I'll just have a look. A couple of questions. We'll just see what we've got in terms of questions. I think we've got one on Facebook and a couple of them on Twitter. Just had the lads said, will Forza be an excitement this year? Will it be the same as every year? I think it will be a step up this year, Forza Motorsport. I think it's going to be certainly stepping forward in terms of the graphics, but also what's the capabilities of the Scorpio and weather. We've got to have dynamic weather.
We keep saying it, don't we? Yeah, time and day and weather. That's it.
They need to really improve the handling.
They do.
It's just not okay. I'm so disappointed in the last 2 from 3 and 4. I just they need to turn that.
Yeah, I've been saying that for the last couple of years. I mean, I've been really moaning about Forza handling, and I played the last game, and I said 5 and 6 are just no good. I mean, the handling is just not there. It's all over the place. For me, it's like hacked physics, really. They get the handling working on the slower cars, and then they hack the faster cars to make them work. But the fundamental model is not balanced at the bottom of it, and but graphically stunning. I mean, from a technical perspective, amazing. But they do need to redo that. So I think that's. There was that rumor from Fnatic earlier this year that said, they've improved their handling a lot. So we wait and see.
We'll see what that means.
We'll see what that means. The next question is from Adrian Pullen. He says, what hidden gems rumor can we expect, if any? So, guys, I suppose for all of you, do you think anyone's got anything secret? Who do you think might hold something back?
I think Microsoft out of anybody.
Could be. Though they could be focused on. I think you never know. Perhaps someone might surprise. Sony might surprise people. Or Ubisoft with perhaps a secondary title, so everyone expects one, and then they throw something else in there with Ubisoft. We just have to wait and see. I mean, it really is. It's almost like we know everything that's coming out at E3 this year, and I find that I'm almost a bit disappointed to know that, because really I like to be surprised, but sadly. So there's got to be something held back. Please let there be one game that we don't know about.
But it wasn't last year, was there? There was nothing that was a surprise. So
no.
When was the Shenmue one? Was that 2 years ago, or was that last year? Or was that the PlayStation experience? I don't remember.
It was a PlayStation, but it was 2 years ago. Yeah, because it was they were doing the Kickstarter for it. But that's again, it's going to take another quite a long time for development.
I think the only company that's going to be able to pull off something like that is probably going to be Microsoft, just because they have the Scorpio up their sleeve, and
in terms of
signs point to that. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a busy year for racing games that I'll be surprised if there's a surprise racing game announcement. Put it that way, or certainly for this year release.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think there's going to be one racing game that
one can hope.
I don't know why they announced the Crew 2. I don't know why they didn't just save it for E3 in a way.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we've got a game we're going to show you at E3, but I'm not telling you anymore.
Well, but they got all these leaks now. They probably want to be in front of them.
That's what it is.
Yeah, they kind of did that with the original Crew. They hinted that there was going to be a new IP, but they didn't announce it outright.
We're seeing more and more reveals, even officially, before E3 hits. So it's like when E3 comes around, we know exactly what's coming. So
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed will be tomorrow.
I'm amazed they're revealing that ahead of E3. That's such a big title. Could have done the element of surprise, I think, for that one, because we don't know what direction it's going to go in.
No.
No.
I mean, it could be a very teasery trailer, though, couldn't it? They could be holding it back. We just don't know what we're going to get tomorrow. If it's going to be a full reveal. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So, well, I mean, that's it, guys, for our E3 sort of preview chat. So lots to look forward to. Easily the biggest year ever for racing games at E3. I think there's going to be plenty more there than we've talked about today. I think we're going to see there's going to be more VR stuff as well on display. And I get the feeling there's going to be a real battle between Project Cars 2, Forza 7, and GT Sport. I think that's a real three-way battle that's going to go on there between those guys. It'd be very interesting to see who comes out the winner, especially at the end of the year. Yes, GT Sport has more marketing, and on paper it will probably sell more than anyone anyway because it's GT Sport. But we'll have to wait and see. And Need for Speed is a complete unknown as we make this podcast. But even when we've seen the trailer, EA are good at trailers, but I think it's the proof is going to be in the pudding in this sense, and that'll be in the playing. So I will try it out if EA let me, or maybe they won't. I don't know. But I will do my best to try getting our hands on. But that's it for now, guys. Thanks for your time tonight. Of course, we'll be at the show. There'll be lots of coverage of all what we've discussed tonight, and there'll be more from us very soon. Everything is bigger in America. It's funny when you get there. It's like like a large drink in America is like
I've had that. It's like a bucket of Coke.
I can't even handle that. So don't feel obligated.
No, it's good. One has to just experience it, I think. So, and then I'm going to be extra British when I'm there. And
that's the best. That's what we look forward to. We look forward to the extra British that you guys bring.
Absolutely.